Hello everyone out there in YouTube land and welcome back to my channel. So I know I haven't vlogged in a long time and this is not a regular vlog. This is sort of a New Year's update. So how did I spend New Year's 2017? I got stitches. Yes, I cut open my finger with a scissor and I got stitches. Eee. So I will tell you guys my gross story and then I will tell you about some of my other life updates. So this is going to be kind of gross, and if you guys have a weak stomach or don't want to hear this story, I would suggest exiting the video now. But for the rest of you who want to hear what an idiot I am and how I hurt myself, I'll tell you the story. So basically it boils down to this. I have one of those removable shower heads, you know, the wands that you wash yourself with. And so it had slipped out of my hand and it dropped and it cracked. The base of it cracked. And the tube had dislodged from the shower head. So rather than just get a new shower head, because I remember the last time I had to change a shower head, my landlord did it for me and he had to use a wrench. So I was like, I'm not good with tools. Maybe I can just duct tape it, and because it was leaking. Maybe I can duct tape it back together again and it'll be fine. So I got some black electrical tape or duct tape or whatever it is, and I wrapped it around the base, and I thought that was going to work. I thought it was pretty tight and okay, but it wasn't. The shower head was still leaking. So now I said to myself, well, let me take the tape off and reaffix it, you know, and the tape wasn't coming off. So I decided to use the brand new pair of scissors, ultra sharp scissors that I have bought, to try to get the tape off the shower head. So I had the scissors like this, trying to cut the tape off, and went and sliced right through my finger. So thank God I've never cut myself that bad before in my life. I mean, I've cut my finger and it's bled and stuff. And, you know, I remember as a kid, I cut my hand on a tin can when I was giving my cat some cat food. I remember when I had a pet rat. Yes, I did. I had a pet rat, like a fancy rat from a pet store, not one from the sewer. He had bit me in my finger and it bled a lot, and I had gotten woozy that time. But nothing that was like this. So it all happened so fast, and it was bleeding a lot. I mean, I remember the time that my rat bit me, and I told my friend at work. He said, you have more, the sounds of New York. Did you hear that siren? You always have more blood or veins or capillaries or whatever it is in your fingers. So whatever you cut your finger, you're going to bleed a lot. So I remember he said that. So it was bleeding, bleeding, bleeding. And I got some paper towels. I got some hydrogen peroxide. I poured the hydrogen peroxide onto my finger, and it didn't really, it hurt. It did hurt, but it was more like a sting, like from a really bad paper cut. That's what it felt like. So I pour the hydrogen peroxide onto the wound, and I'm thinking it's going to be like a regular cut where it's going to, you know, what do you call it? Not congeal. What do they call it, that word? I can't think of the word. Where it's going to clot. I thought it was the blood would clot and it wouldn't bleed anymore. It kept bleeding. I stuck my finger into the bottle of hydrogen peroxide thinking that would work. I don't know why. And it didn't work. So I got paper towels, I wrapped it around my finger, and I watch a lot of cop shows, and you know, the First 48 on A&E is one of my favorite shows, and so I always remember to say you got to apply pressure to the wound. So I wrapped up my finger in this paper towel and I'm applying pressure to the wound, and I'm saying to myself, how long is it going to take before it stops bleeding? And by this time, while I've gone to get the paper towels and all this other stuff, I've dripped blood on my sink, I've dripped it on my floor, it got on my door, it was everywhere. It looked like a murder scene. So I'm sitting here, I cleaned up the blood, I'm holding my hand, and I'm saying to myself, what do I do now? So reality is setting in. This is probably going to require going to the hospital. And I'm not a hospital person. I know you know, when I've had to go with my mother to the hospital, it always takes them 10 hours to figure out what they're going to do with her. If she gets a, you know, upset stomach or whatever, they got to take her down all the medications and it's a whole big to do. So I'm running through this through my mind. Do I want to sit in an emergency room for 10 plus hours with the finger? And I'm thinking to myself, you know, should I just wait till it stops bleeding? It's got to stop bleeding eventually, right? So after pondering it for a little while, I said, no, this is going to require stitches. I'm going to have to get a tetanus shot, and there's no getting out of this one. But I was kind of happy that I didn't pass out, that I didn't faint from the sight of all that blood, because when my rat bit me, I did get faint and I had to lie down. And I was remembering that episode of Frasier where David Hyde Pierce, it's the Valentine's Day episode. It's where they did 3 Valentine's Day stories, and he cuts himself, and you know he's like a wussy type guy and whatever, and he's holding his finger above his head, trying not to pass out, and he keeps passing out, and I'm saying to myself, oh my God, am I going to pass out? What's going to happen to me? So I wadded up all the paper towels around my hand, and I got in the car, and I was going to drive myself to the hospital because my mom doesn't drive. So I called her and I said, listen, I cut my finger really bad and I have to go to the hospital. So she said, I told her, I'm just letting you know, just in case, God forbid, something happens, you know where I am. She said, no, I'll come with you. I'll come with you. So I said, okay, fine. So I picked her up, and I'm driving with one wounded hand and one regular hand. And I get to the hospital, and I tell the woman, I cut my finger really bad. And she thought I said I cut my finger off. So needless to say, they took me right away. And the nurse said to me, yeah, you cut a meaty chunk out of your finger. That was the meaty part of your finger. That's what she said. And then she asked me, has it been 10 years since I had a tetanus shot? I can't ever remember having a tetanus shot. And she said, well, it was probably when you were a baby, and so you'll need a tetanus shot. And so I got one of those. And to be honest with you, the tetanus shot didn't hurt. It was just a tiny pinch, but now it feels like somebody punched me in the arm. It's not black and blue, but it feels like it should be. It is actually really painful now. So they gave me a tetanus shot. And then the doctor comes in and he says, and by that time my finger had stopped bleeding, but it still was like this gaping wound, not pleasant. So he says, yeah, you're going to need some stitches. Okay. I've never gotten stitches in my life. So I was like, okay, how's this going to work? So he's like, okay, we're going to inject your finger with anesthesia, and your finger's going to swell up like a sausage. And then we're going to stitch you up. Now, I remember when I had a similar incident very long time ago where I ripped off my real nail with my fake nail, and it was hanging. And they had to give me injections in my finger in order to cut the nail off. But it wasn't anything like this. So he gives me the injection in my finger. It stung. It hurt. And then he said, okay, now you're not going to feel anything. So and I wasn't looking, but he must have been tapping the tip of my finger, because I said to him, I can still feel my finger. And he's like, he was tapping the tip of my finger, and he's like, you feel that? You feel that? And I was like, no, I don't feel anything. He's like, okay, now we're going to sew you up. I believe 5 stitches to close it up. And yeah. And the thing is, I am proud of myself that I was able to keep calm. I didn't pass out. I kept a level head. I went to the hospital. I didn't risk infection. You know, because I said to the nurse, what if I would have just stayed home and let it heal on its own? And she's like, no, it would have taken a really long time. And, you know, it could have gotten infected, and you much better off coming to the hospital and having it treated the right way. And I used to be terrified of needles. I could not get a blood test. I could not get an injection. I would get like massive anxiety and panic. But after I became diabetic, I I sort of got over got over my fear of needles. And it was ironic to me because when I had talked to my doctor about the fear of needles, because he's like, you know, you're gonna have to get blood tests and stuff eventually. He said to me the best way to get over a fear is to expose yourself to it slowly. So if you're afraid of heights, slowly go up higher into a building or whatever. But with needles, what are you going to do? You know, you can't really expose yourself to needles. So, but becoming diabetic and forcing myself to have to test my blood sugar did expose me to needles and having to do that. And so I became less fearful. And so I was able to do this. I was able to go and get my tetanus shot and go get this anesthesia and get my fingers sewed up. And I was okay. I was okay. I thank God for my mom that she was there for me. And, you know, I was holding her hand. And then I was more afraid than I was in pain. And I kept squeezing her hand. And she's like, you're going to break my hand. So, yeah. Anyway, so I've been having to work one-handed because it hurts. It hurts. It pounds. They gave me antibiotics and they told me to come back in a week and get the stitches out. But I can't get the finger wet. And so that means no washing dishes and taking a shower. For both, for washing dishes and taking a shower, I have to put a plastic bag around my hand and tie it real tight to make sure that my finger doesn't get wet. And then, you know, for washing my hands, it's a weird procedure. So I have to put the bag on this finger and wash my hand. And then there's probably a better way of doing this. And then for this finger, cover the top part and then just wash the bottom part and, you know, whatever. So I'm trying to take this bandage off without ripping my stitches out. And I hesitate to ever use a scissor again to show you the stitches. It's really a Frankenstein finger. I have a feeling this video is going to be way too long to upload. Because my camera's been acting weird. So anyway, while I'm trying to do this, I will tell you what other stuff has gone wrong. You know, that's why you got to appreciate things in life. Because when you start saying to yourself, oh, gee, this has gone wrong, and oh, gee, that's gone wrong, and you think, oh, you know, it's not going to get any worse because look at all the shit that's happening to me. It gets much, much worse. Because here I was being a crybaby, right? Because I had to spend $800 to fix my car, and it's still not completely fixed. My mechanic told me it's on life support. And I can't afford a new used car, and I don't want to lease. And so I'm in this situation with my car being all crappy and junky, right? And I have to go on a business trip to Albany next month. So I don't know what I'm going to do. My mechanic said, you know, you're better off just renting a car. But I think it's going to be expensive because they always ask you, are you going to stay in the city? And I say, no, I'm going to drive 170 miles each way up to Albany. So it's either do that or take my car and risk it breaking down and being screwed, or get on the bus with my coworkers, but I get motion sickness. And I could take Dramamine, but if that doesn't work out, who wants to be on the bus with me? So, yeah, there's that. So I was, you know, boo-hooing myself about, oh, my car sucks and I can't afford a new used car and blah, blah, blah. And then I get a letter in the mail telling me, well, since you had 2 fender benders in the last 5 years, we are now going to triple your car insurance. So even if I can hardly afford to pay the insurance on my crappy car that I currently have, I'm going to use the scissor. This is a bad idea. I'm going to... I don't know about that. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, I can't afford the insurance on the crap fest of a car that I already have. If I get a new car, a new used car, I did some pricing on that, and my insurance would go up even higher. and I really wouldn't be able to afford it. I can't get this Band-Aid off. I want to show you these stitches because I want to look back on this and say to myself, I was an idiot and look what I did to myself, but I am going to get through it. Yeah, so car problems, work is crappy, and then, you know, like I said, boo-hooing myself, and then I cut my finger open, which is fun, and it's still finding blood in my apartment. Okay, 1, 2, it looks like 4, but there's actually 5 stitches. Okay, now this is really, really gross. So I'm letting you know now, if you don't want to see this, don't look, okay? You've been warned. Okay, so there is my gross, disgusting 5 stitches finger. Ew. You guys got a good look at it? Okay. Now I got to bandage it up again. So, that's my life update. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up. If you were completely freaked out and grossed out by it, let me know that too. Malcolm sends his regards. Until next time, goodbye everyone out there in YouTube land.